Here we go.
You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Halliburton on top, driving on Porter Jr., kick out to Turner, a three on the way, and they're finally on the board. And after one in Game 5, it's the Milwaukee Bucks 30, the Indiana Pacers 13. Pacers are 1 of 10 from three-point range. 5 minutes left in the half. Halliburton drives, finds the wide-open Nesmith in front of the Milwaukee bench, and he drops a three. Nembhard gets it in. Nesmith with an immediate three out of the corner. He caught it with his back to the basket, and he spun, looked at the rim, and wasted little time delivering a three.
With A.J. Green all over him, big-time shot there.
Through two in Game 5. It's the Milwaukee Bucks 47, the Indiana Pacers 41. Left side, there's that quick catch and shoot. Green this time, though, missed the shot. From the left sideline, Halliburton down 5, brings it up, gives it to Nesmith, into the corner, and Nembhard makes it a 2-point game. Nesmith back to Nembhard, right on that logo. He's going to let this one go, and Indiana has their first lead of the game. He was out near the logo at center court. It's 52-51. We are even up in Game 5 through 3. It's the Indiana Pacers 75, the Milwaukee Bucks 75. 22 seconds left. There is time between game and shot clocks, but it's less than a second. Indiana down by 2. Halliburton moving to his left, driving with his right hand. He's in the lane. He's at the goal, and he dunked. Porter will make the inbound pass from the far side hash mark. 10 and 8/10 seconds to play. Ball is into Antetokounmpo. He's played at the edge of the arc by Turner. 6 seconds to play. He'll make his move now. Driving, backing to the wing, to the baseline. Very difficult shot. We go to overtime. Green will play it in. Near side hash, 17 and a tenth to play. They'll go to the backcourt. Porter tracks it down, puts it on the floor, feeds it to the front court. They get it to Trent. Almost. He did lose it. He fumbled it out of bounds. He fumbled it out of bounds.
You got to be kidding me.
And now the Pacers can go ahead with 10 and 8/10 seconds to play.
Here we go.
Here comes Halliburton. Hits the timeline with 7. Outside the arc with 5. Driving in the lane at the goal. He lays it in with 1 and 3/10 seconds to go. Milwaukee has no timeouts. They have to go the length. Ball is going to be played in by Antetokounmpo. He gets it to Trent, and this one is over. Unbelievable.
Sweet baby.
That's Mark Boyle, Eddie Gill right there. Pacers Radio, as heard last night here on 107.5 and 93.5. The Fan. Pacers get it done and move on from round number 1, and they eliminate the Bucks last night to final 119-118. Honestly, I have zero idea where to start. I will say this. I do. I have somewhat of an idea where to start, but I want to be so fresh in the beginning of this show and make sure we get the angle from somebody that would know. I'll hold off on, again, just 1,000 thoughts I have from last night. You know, some good and some bad. But a win and you're moving on. But as I mentioned, I'll keep it fresh. And joining us to start the show, the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He is the general manager of the Pacers. He is the friend of this show. He is Chad Buchanan. So, Chad, I'm going to leave it up to you. Normally, I get about 20 minutes to absolutely go off on stuff, to talk about stuff, to describe stuff. I didn't really have the words to do it, so I call upon you to do it. Have you ever seen anything like what we witnessed at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Game 5 last night?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. What are you referring to?
I'm sorry. Were you watching Quincy last night? I'm sorry. Did I take you away from that?
Oh, what an incredible night! I mean, from like you mentioned, how it started to where it finished and everything in between, and just this series as a whole has been, to top it off last night with the win was such a great moment for our franchise and our organization and all of our fans. So it was a great day to wake up this morning and take my kids to school. I know that.
Yeah. Speaking of waking up, why did it seem that it took so long for the Pacers to wake up? It was funny because I heard Rick on with the morning show, and Rick had said, hey, remind everybody it's a 6 o'clock start. And I came on in the afternoon and said, you know what? You watch this team all season long. You're big fans. If you needed reminded about when this game starts in the playoffs and an elimination game against the Bucks in the first round, then I'll just bring a tack hammer over to your house and remind you that way. Yet it kind of seemed like that the team that needed that reminder, it was the Pacers in quarter number one. What was that? It was more what the Bucks were doing or more about what the Pacers at that moment were not?
I think that Milwaukee came out very physical guarding the ball, number one, which really established and dictated, how they were going to play and compete. You never know. A team has their back against the wall. You just never know. Are they going to come out with fight, or are they going to come out and just kind of go through the motions? And I think we saw last night they were not going to go down without a fight. And they got guys who, been on championship teams over there on the other side, and they had a lot of pride, and they were going to come into our building and try to take one. And they had one of their teammates go down the last game, and I think they had a lot of emotion, that they were playing with as well. And we weren't ready to match it at the beginning of the game, quite frankly. I think our guys were hoping that it'd be easy, and it wasn't. And they punched us in the mouth, and fortunately we responded. Thanks. Our bench really kind of got us back into it, and our starters took it from there and closed it out for us.
Now, he's the Pacers general manager, Chad Buchanan. Sunday is game number one of the Eastern Conference semifinals in Cleveland, the Cavaliers and the Pacers. More on that in just a second. I am curious. I thought last night was in full detail, Chad. You and I have talked about this. You know where I stand about putting this thing back together or running it back, and how in favor of this I was, and how I love the team concept, and I think how this Pacer team epitomizes that. I thought last night was really one of the greatest examples we have seen about the team concept and the quality these individuals on that bench have as to how they came from behind and won that game, because it wasn't just one hurdle, Chad, they got over. It just kept coming and coming. They'd put themselves in a good spot and then fall back and do it again and then fall back. To me, across the board, you really can single out nearly everybody and said that person had a hand in winning that game and moving on to the postseason, and that to me is the team concept and quality we've been talking about.
You are spot on with that. I think every player, and Coach Carlisle mentioned this in the locker room, everybody on that team who got on the floor last night made some sort of contribution that got us back into that game and kept us in that game. And, they had some hellacious shot making going on by Gary Trent and AJ Green last night that kind of could have been knockout punches for us. And, you mentioned the continuity of this group. They stick together through tough times. And we had tough times the first 25 games of the year. We're not going to lie. That was a tough start to the season, and we have a tough start to the game last night, but because of the familiarity and the trust in each other and the belief in how we play and what we do, that we could come back and get back into that game and ultimately close it out. But you can't say enough good things about anybody who comes off the bench in the NBA. It's challenging because you never know when you're going to get called into the game. You never know what matchup maybe the other team's going to have on the floor when you get in there, and you've got to get in there and try and produce and be a spark and maybe some limited minutes. And to the credit to so many guys who came off the bench last night, it was great to see TJ obviously have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Because he beats himself up after, games where he feels like he doesn't perform as well as he thinks he can. And he almost always bounces back. And, he shined last night for us, as did several other guys coming off the bench and filling a role. And we've got so many guys who embrace their role, which is so important. It's easy to want to be, the marquee guy, the feature guy that, the coaches running plays for, and you're getting a lot of touches. And, but we have so many guys who embrace what they're asked to do. And there's so many selfless people in that locker room. And it showed last night, because you watch our bench gets just excited no matter who's on the court. If it's the guy in front of you is making a play, you're up cheering. If it's the guy behind you is making a play, you're up cheering. And that's a selfless team, and that's exactly what we have with this group.
What's funny about that is I bring up the quality of this group, and that certainly is at the top level of a quality, and it is difficult to come by. not just in general in professional basketball, but professional sports and, the whole trickle-down thing, the whole quality of, understanding your role, your gig, and then doing it. So many times you just kind of lean on somebody, hey, this person will get the job done, but it seems like with this group, Chad, everybody has an individual job that they have to perform. And I think throughout this series, there may be moments when things weren't going right for them. But for the most part, I think you can look at everybody did their job. And that's what makes this a team. And that's what makes this as good a team as you're going to find across the NBA landscape. And really something that you don't see very often any longer at the NBA level.
Yeah, and it may be a cliche, but I know teams talk about culture and character, but I think it really defines the character of each guy in our team, that they're willing to embrace whatever they're asked to do to help the team win and help it to be successful. And credit to our coaches for identifying what each player can do to help the team win. And, our scouting staff goes through, and that's, when we add a player to the team, they want to know character. They want to know what they're made of. Are they going to be about the team? Are they going to be about themselves? Are they going to be able to accept, a lesser role than maybe they've accustomed to in the past? And our coaches have done a fantastic job of building an identity with this group and getting everybody to buy into what we need them to do to be successful. And it's not going to be pretty every night. I mean, we're going to have nights where it doesn't click, but that's the nature of playing 82 games. It's a marathon, and I think it's easy to get down on your team when you have a bad week or so. But if you believe in the character and the fiber of what each person is about, then good things can happen if you stick with it and you persevere, and that's what this group has done.
It's Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Pacers game 1 in Cleveland coming up on Sunday. More on that in just a second. So down 7, 40 seconds remaining. I know around me, when I was there, I don't sit too far away from you. I saw some of the reaction from the fans, and some that decided to bail. Others didn't. What were you thinking about the circumstances at that moment before we witnessed what took place there, which was incredible?
Well, you need a lot of things to go right for your team and a lot of things to go wrong for the other team to have something happen like happened last night. And I think one thing that gets overlooked is I think back to what really helped us get over that hurdle. Them having to burn timeouts on multiple times trying to inbound the ball at the time doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you're left with 1.3 seconds on the clock to try to win a game and you don't have a timeout and you've got to go the full court, that essentially kind of won you the game with two plays, defensive possessions, where you forced them to call a timeout because they couldn't inbound the ball. And it's little things like that. Obviously you see the great shot by Tyrese, the steal by Drew, the shot by Drew, all the things that happened. But it's the subtle things that added up to putting us in position to have a chance to win that game. But everything that needed to go right for us did. And unfortunately on Milwaukee's side, everything that probably needed to go wrong did for them. And we've been on the other end of heartbreaking losses too. So you know the feeling. But it's the great thing about sports. And anything can happen. I tell my son that all the time. He gets, he's playing second grade basketball and they're down by 8 points with 4 minutes left and he thinks his dog's died. It's like you got to play till the final buzzer because you just never know. You just never know what can happen. You put the best athletes in the world out there on the floor and, things can happen that you don't expect to happen. That's what occurred last night.
Yeah, normally we can't bring it up in this capacity because he is great, and we know that. And 30, 20, and 13 speaks for itself right there. But am I wrong in suggesting that it felt like defensively the Pacers, and especially to end regulation, I thought one of the biggest moments of that game is when Giannis settled for a fadeaway and didn't just put his shoulder down and go to the rim as he normally does against Miles. And you look at the guy's stat line, it's out of this world. But there were big moments when you felt like that he wasn't the normal Giannis because it felt like there was a lot of settling offensively going on with him against this Pacers D.
Yeah, I think our coaches made a great adjustment on that. You touched on it. We put Miles on him for that last possession, that's a bigger body to attack. It's a bigger body to shoot over. It's a rim protector. And then, he felt the double team coming to him and caused him to spin away from it, which created a really challenging shot. And when you have that much load on your shoulders over the course of the game, the pace we play at, it's ultimately going to wear on you at some point. And, fatigue sometimes will maybe force you to settle for something that maybe you don't want to, but you just don't have the legs or the lung capacity at the moment to kind of force something. And fortunately for us, Miles got a great contest on him and forced him in a really tough shot. And I love the adjustment, that our coaches made by switching up the matchup there, which I think probably factors into a little bit in your mind as a player. Like all of a sudden you got a new defender on you, and it maybe takes you out of the rhythm of what you've been doing all game. So credit to our coaches on that, and credit to Miles for a great contest.
Hey, and credit to you guys for listening to me about this team. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, you're technically part of our staff, aren't you?
I do. I feel good about that. You know what? And I'll take being a part of the staff and not getting paid for it. That's okay. Just as long as I have a little bit of a voice in there, too, regarding I love what this team has accomplished in the past couple of years, for everybody, but certainly with 33 involved. I know it looks like it's extra special for him and his family. And obviously we saw a lot of family stuff go on. And I did want to bring this up, and I know you can't go into detail, and I'm not going to ask you to go into detail because both he has apologized, Tyrese has mentioned it and said, hey, he was wrong. Everything right that has been said. I guess if you're a father, I'm not justifying it whatsoever, but you get caught up in the moment when you hear so much about your son. I'm assuming that's maybe what took place after the game last night. Can we chalk it up to that and then move on after the apologies are made here?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Halliburton loves his son like we all love our kids, and maybe got caught up in the moment, but, he apologized and recognized, going onto the floor, he probably shouldn't have done, but in the moment where you want to celebrate such a great night for our team, sometimes, actions sometimes you don't normally do, you regret the next day. And he was very apologetic immediately after that. And, but I think all of our players, the one thing, I go back to the character of our team. We have so many supportive families of these guys that are there every night. They're there on the road with our players. They're, traveling to Paris with our team, that they love their kids. And that makes for such a great culture, and I credit, Coach Carlisle and his staff for creating a really family-friendly, environment for our players to have mom and dad and brothers and sisters, kids. We got players with kids that are around. We got James Johnson's kids are in the locker room with us, and it's just the culture that has been created here creates for some, great vibes and great moments for our players to share with their families. So unfortunate, how it ended last night there, but we're ready to move on from that. I know Mr. Halliburton is as well, and can't fault a guy for loving his son. Can't fault him.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought, and then I saw Meta World Peace go over there and try to calm things down, and I felt really secure that everything was okay. Right in front of me, which was highly entertaining. It was. I tell you what, I felt more for Benedict, because I know why he's mad, because he got needing to sack like 2 games earlier and had to miss a game because of it. So yeah, I mean, maybe I don't want to hear what's being said right here. But anyway, Chad Buchanan joins us. Let's move on. There is a team in Cleveland that has had a spectacular season. We know that. Game 1's coming up on Sunday in Cleveland. And what is interesting to me is in how so many ways a lot of the advantages we view the Pacers have against other teams, it seems like that Cleveland is right there in matchup quality and capability. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, they've had an outstanding season. Coach Atkinson has done a terrific job establishing their identity, the confidence that these guys play with, the confidence they shoot the ball with. And, he's found out a way to make their 2 big men play together and mesh together, and they've both had terrific seasons. And they're a load. I mean, they're an absolute load, to handle. And we're going to have our hands full, and our guys know that. They didn't win as many games as they did this year by luck. They didn't get on a hot streak. They were good from start to finish, and there's a reason you get this time of year. It's supposed to be hard. These games are supposed to be tough. These series are supposed to be tougher and tougher the further you get into them, and this is going to be an immense challenge for us. And they have home court advantage. So, but our guys, it's, hey, we got to go play, and our guys aren't going to be afraid of anybody, but they know this is going to be a team you're going to play awfully well against to beat.
I know this is going to be the coach's decision. By the way, I talk about the coaching staff all the time because I think your coaching staff does a tremendous job of adjustments. And I'm not thinking that I'm not suggesting I'm smart and I'm making those adjustments too, but I think every single time they do something, you can understand why they felt compelled to make that call or do that, which is why I want to bring this up. So are we going with the defensive assignments, Miles versus Allen? Is it Andrew versus Mitchell? You're going to get who gets Mobley? Is it a Neesmith? Is it a Siakam? How's that going to work? Because I'm assuming that Tyrese gets Max Strus in this equation as well. Defensively, how do you view the start of this series with that in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I trust our coaches on what they feel is best. I mean, the two big, lineup is an interesting, matchup. Fortunately, Pascal has some versatility to guard, some fours and some fives. Miles obviously is better suited guarding a five, but
he gets Jared Allen away from the basket, so I like that. I didn't know, because I thought Neesmith did one hell of a job when he had to guard Giannis, and I kind of wondered if maybe he would spend some time on Mobley in this series. Just kind of wondering.
Yeah, I mean, I think our coaches will probably look at mixing it up a little bit, seeing what has success and what doesn't. They're, like you mentioned, they're very, very smart at adapting to what's working and what's not working, and trying to make some adjustments in there. And that's part of a playoff series. You may try something in game one and scrap it and go in a whole new different direction for game two. The more you see how it plays out on the floor, but having two guards that can really create and score is a challenge for any team, and they have that in Garland and Donovan. And then they put a lot of shooting around them, which makes it, the spacing ideal for those two guards to go create. So it's going to put a lot of pressure on our individual defenders to guard and contain the ball and contain some guys that can really get it going with their shooting and their penetration. And if you can do that, you have a chance, but it's a big challenge with both of those guys because they're both all-star caliber players.
You want me to run over this week and get these guys through practice on controlled closeouts on shooters? Controlled contests, something like that. You guys need that? I can come over if you guys need me.
That's not in your job description, I don't think. I think it's kind of knowing your role, John. You got to know where your role is.
I'm
just talked about that earlier.
I'm just gonna roll over there and say, okay, hand down, man down. Just remember that, okay? And you don't need to fly by into the front row or anything like that. Just a controlled contest. But if you need me,
easier said than done.
I know. I go to these games. One of the reasons why I love going is seeing these guys and how athletic they are is absolutely stinking ridiculous. For somebody that loves basketball as much as me, I watch in awe of really everybody because it is so athletic, so fast. It's incredible. Every time I go, it really is very enjoyable.
It is. It's a joy to have this job and to watch these guys and root for them. And I hear you. I love basketball just as much as you. And sometimes I get caught up last night, and obviously you're stressed out about the game, but to sit there and take in that moment and be happy for your guys and your coaches, and there's nothing better, man. There's nothing better.
Yep. Pace of play. I thought second quarter was incredibly important. You hold them to 17 after you score, 15 or 13 or whatever on your own in the first, and then T.J. McConnell, he was huge in that second half, really. Fourth quarter, huge. And that's team ball right there. That's what everybody loves about this squad, and that's what you witnessed last night in that closeout.
Absolutely. I mean, how can you not be happy for TJ and seeing him come in there and be a huge spark when we really, really needed it? I mean, and he felt it. He knew, like, hey, this is my moment. This team needs me badly right now, and I'm going to go out and get it done. And for him, obviously he's very competitive, wants to do well every single second he's on the floor, and takes a lot of pride in being a spark for us. And man, was he ever last night. Super, super thrilled for him.
He was. All right, if you need me, let me know when you guys have practice. I'll come down because I'm going to ring that bell, I think, later on this week too. So let me know when you're ready. All right?
You got it, my man.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. Congratulations on round number 1.
Thank you. Thank you to our fans, too. They were awesome that series. We need them again next round.
Man, they were. No doubt about that. Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You guys were, and listen, not a lot of people left. Some did, but not a lot of people left. Shout out to you. Quick one. We'll come back. Got more for you on this show regarding this and all of my thoughts coming up. And Jalen Travis was just drafted by the Colts, the offensive lineman. Princeton and Iowa State. He's going to join us, who, by the way, is a fantastic conversation. Me and you as well the rest of the way, and voice of the Pacers, Chris Denary, coming up. Kevin Bowen a little bit later on from the morning show. My advice is do not go anywhere because we're going to trip the light fantastic on this Wednesday. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
10 and 8 seconds to play.
Here we go.
Here comes Halliburton. Hits the timeline with 7. Outside the arc with 5. Driving in the lane at the goal. He lays it in with 1 and 3/10 seconds to go. Milwaukee has no timeouts. They have to go the length. Ball is going to be played in by Antetokounmpo. He gets it to Trent, and this one is over. Unbelievable.
Sweet baby.
Mark Boyle, Eddie Gill, right here on the Fan last night. Game 5 closeout, Pacers and OT over the Bucks, and what in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Indeed, I've got full breakdown. Pacers GM Chad Buchanan a little bit earlier on everything, and I've got even more on absolutely everything coming up here, including Chris Denary a little bit later on. So don't go anywhere. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he was a 4th-round selection, an offensive lineman, Princeton and Iowa State, respectively, collegiately, and 127 overall from the big fella who joins us, Jalen Travis on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, Jalen, thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. How's it going?
Did you check out that game last night, buddy?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think about it? Give us your breakdown. You're brand new, I know, to Indy, and maybe you don't watch a lot of Pacer basketball, but give us your breakdown on what took place, especially at the end of that game.
It was elite. And I thought, especially down the stretch, and as I Iowa State guy myself, you never bet against Hallie. And I think it was dope for him to be able to close it out the way that he did. I know he's been getting some hate recently, but to put his stamp on that series against one of the best players to ever play the game of basketball, Giannis, I think was a stamp that the Pacers needed to head into the next round.
Now, are you a Timberwolves fan from being from Minneapolis?
Born and raised, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm pulling for my Wolves right now.
It makes sense. We might bring that up a little bit, too. I don't mind, because they get a closeout opportunity in La La Land later on tonight. You'll be watching, I'm assuming, all right?
Oh, yeah. No, it's not going to be easy, but I'm glad we're able to steal the 2 at home and obviously 1 on the road to start the series. So we need this one to get some rest heading into the next round.
Damn, I'll tell you what. You're so good, you can just take over and do the rest of this show. I'll just go home. How about that? I'm going to take the day off with Jalen Travis on the show right now. I did want to bring this up before we get to your game and what was a very special moment and weekend for you getting drafted by the Colts. You mentioned Tyrese Halliburton because you spent time in Ames as well at Iowa State. Is his name up there among the all-time greats on campus, athletically speaking, where you went to school and played football?
Oh, without a doubt. And I think even spending just a year there after, coming from Princeton, it's hard to walk around without, knowing who he is and the impact that he's had on the school and the program there. So I've gained my respect for him over this past year, and obviously having the chance to see him and the supporters, relatively up close has been awesome.
He's Jalen Travis with us. Where do I begin about the weekend that was for you? Were you entirely comfortable with the way things went down? Were you anxious at all? I mean, what did it feel like all the way up until your name was called?
Yeah, a little bit anxious. It's one of those things where, it was in God's hands, and there's not too much that anyone could do, in the meantime. So. I think the biggest thing for me and my family was just trusting that, all the work has been put in and that the right decision will be made. And, when I got that call, it was, a weight off my shoulders that I didn't know I had, and all the emotions that came with it.
Man, and you're there with everybody around you that you love, being able to enjoy that moment. It's tough for me to comprehend, to be honest with you, Jalen. It has to be incredibly special. Do you remember it still right now, vividly, basically every second when your name was called and the reaction?
100%. Every second of that day. And, just being flooded with emotions and, surrounding around, people who have been at, every step of the journey with me. Was a super surreal moment, and definitely one that I'm going to carry with me, for the rest of my life.
Did you feel that maybe you could be a target in this draft by the Colts, or were they at the top of the list of your thoughts, or was it somebody else maybe going up until that moment your name was called?
Yeah, we honestly had no idea, and I think the Colts did a decent job of not showing their cards to the rest of the world or even to my camp. Heading into the draft, I'd been in regular contact, with the coaching staff, and Coach Soprano with the O-line, in the weeks and in the month following the combine. But outside of that, there wasn't, too much additional coaching staff. I didn't take a visit to the Colts. I didn't, have a private workout with the Colts following the combine. But, I do think that the coaching staff's belief in me was something that was evident to me heading into the draft weekend. But, we knew it was a possibility, but maybe not one we completely expected.
Now, he is Jalen Travis with us, fourth-round selection by the Colts on the offensive line, 6'7", 6'8". We're going to give him 6'8". In 315, who is actually bigger than the damn doorway. We're just going to say the doorway. That's your nickname, the doorway right there. Big dude, no doubt about that, for a team that certainly offensive linemen and depth at offensive line is what this team is looking for. What are you looking forward to in joining this team out of yourself as far as your evolution as a rookie getting used to things early on with the Colts?
Yeah, I think, I'm eager just to get into a room with, an experienced group of guys to, one, help my game to continue to develop. And with that, I do believe that, I have a certain skill set and, obviously the size to be able to contribute, right away. But my biggest thing is coming in to learn from, some of the guys that we already have in the room and begin to take, my game to the next level and obviously learning from every step of the way.
All right, so there are going to be a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of teammates in that room with you. You're going to have a lot of teammates in the locker room. Obviously, you get OTAs, and then you get training camp. I'm assuming, though, Jalen, you're going to be one of one here because you graduated from Princeton with a degree in anthropology with a concentration in law, politics, and economics. There's absolutely zero way anybody else has that pedigree in your locker room. None. None. So give me a little background on this anthropology degree here. I can't even pronounce it, much less even think about what that entails. Help us out.
Anthropology generally is, the study or, the focus of, cultural peoples, around the globe and how we interact with each other, institutions more broadly, and obviously throwing more of a legal and political lens on that. How different cultures interact with legal institutions, political institutions, societies, et cetera, et cetera. So Princeton didn't have a pre-law track for me, so anthropology became my home, and I think it was one of the better decisions I've made in my academic journey. So definitely some pretty fascinating stuff off the field.
There's also no doubt that you're by far the smartest person in this conversation right now, Jalen. There's zero doubt of that. I mean, that is incredible. Now, you mentioned what educationally speaking, your concentration is football right now. No doubt about that. Oh, yeah. But what's the future of your education and I guess continued enlightenment? What's that going to entail? Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, I think obviously, concentrating on football right now and, hoping to earn at least a 10-year degree in this, in this sport. But after that, I think my goal is to go back to law school, at some point, obviously variables independent, but, kind of pursue my passion, off the field through the law.
Man, that is so awesome right there. This is great. Yes, I'm going to have to utilize you as a resource. Do you do any advising? Because I need it.
Anytime. No, you got my number.
Well, Lord have mercy. I'm a mess, man. People will tell you that I'm an absolute mess. So Jalen Travis with us. Hey, by the way, what did the dialogue sound like when Chris called you and said you were going to become a member of the Colts? They were going to draft you. What was that back and forth like at that moment?
It was incredible. I was overcome with emotion, so I hardly could get a few words out. Nothing but thank you and Coach, I'm ready. Ready to come in and work. And it was a million and one thoughts were going through my mind, obviously, as you can imagine. But most of all, relief and excitement that I'm gonna be a part of an organization with such a storied history. That believes in me just as much as I believe in them, and has given me the opportunity to come in and achieve my dream. of playing in the NFL and being someone who can stay here for a very long time.
You specific positionally speaking, or do you feel like that you can move around and when called upon, when asked to play, can play the position along that line? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think like it's one of the virtues I think of the way that I've been able to approach, especially like this pre-draft process, is being able to show my position versatility, along the line. And that's just something I'm excited to come in and do, really plug in and play, where needed and in whatever capacity that the team needs.
So Jalen Travis with us. All right, give me a break. Elimination game for your Timberwolves later on tonight, right? In L.A., what are you thinking? What has to be done right there?
Yeah, I think, one, if we continue to make Luka take the majority of the Lakers shots, we're going to be a good spot. I mean, granted, he's one of the best scorers in the game, but I do think that, the more they get their bench involved, the worse off the Timberwolves are. And we saw that in games, last two games where the Lakers didn't get their bench involved heading into the third and fourth, but had to rely on Luka and LeBron down the stretch, which, ultimately the younger legs of the Timberwolves, wore them out. So I think we found our key to success, but we just have to replicate it, heading into Game 5.
Well done right there. I know you're a native of Minneapolis. How many times have you been to Paisley Park?
Oh, I've been there a couple times. I was actually out there the afternoon that, Prince's death was announced.
Really? What was that, 26? That was 2016, was it not? Is that how long ago that was?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Parents went to high school with him, grew up in the same neighborhood with him, so we're very familiar.
Holy crap. Now, what's your favorite song?
Raspberry Beret.
My man! Around the World in a Day from Jalen Travis right there.
There we go.
Holy crap. I tell you what, if you're going to be in Indy, I host a Saturday night all-request show that surrounds the 1980s. I'm going to have Matt Conti have you call up and request Raspberry Beret here relatively soon. Can you do that for me?
I need that. Oh, I can do that. That's incredible.
All right. Well, we're going to get you back on again, and we're going to have full-scale discussion on Prince and the Revolution and the evolution of his songs and how we miss him a great deal. That's awesome, man. Great conversation.
Ooh, I'm ready for it. I appreciate you.
You got it, Jalen. Thank you.
Of course.
It's Jalen Travis on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Holy hell. Clear my schedule. Let's talk Prince the rest of the show. Good Lord. So he went to Paisley Park when Prince passed away. Yeah, I'm incredibly moved by that. Like, I kind of wonder when I ask if he was maybe a little bit too young for that. Yeah, I know he's way, way too smart for this show. There's no doubt about that. It's Jalen Travis of the Colts on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. All right, James, I'll take a break and come back. Bowen still to come. Denary, Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM a little bit earlier. That podcast at 1075thefan.com. My thoughts and more. Do not go anywhere. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Wide world of sports is going on here.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Shout out to Jalen Travis, who just joined us. Crank this up for me, James. From around the world and today, it's Prince of the Revolution and Raspberry Beret. The favorite song in the Prince catalog of one Jalen Travis. 4th round selection by the Colts. Minneapolis, Minnesota native. And as Skivvy's just mentioned, JMV's new best friend. Jalen Travis is officially my new best friend. Incredible. T. Shaw says, would you have sounded as polished at age 23 as Jalen just did? T. Shaw, I'm 55. I don't sound that polished. Seriously, there's zero way. Can you imagine the level of jackass I sounded at 23? Honestly, for those of you out there, this is an improvement. Like, this is, an improvement. Can you imagine the level of jackass that I sounded at 23? Because remember, too, I had that huge lisp, and then my Southwestern Indiana Southern draw. I was a disaster. And I'm a disaster right now. I'm less than a disaster at 55. But no, T. Shaw, dude, I would have been a mess. 23. Anthropology? I mean, I couldn't even pronounce that at 55. With a concentration on stuff like that would be mine. His degree is in the 1980s, and his concentration is stuff like that. Man, shout out to Jalen Travis. That was great. Petey writes this, so I actually had a meetup with someone who was staying at Babyface's old house in Holmby Hills, California, and Michael Jackson was staying at the house across the street. A month before MJ passed away. I remember that. That was before, the draft? I was doing my show live before the NBA draft. Across from the field house, across Pennsylvania. I think it was at the pub way back in the day. Rex Hampton checks in with this. I love the Indy 500 decals and event decals, usually on the JW, but what's up with the giant Mountain Dew bottle? I hate to say it, Rex. I haven't seen it. Here's why. Because every street coming northbound from where I live down in Bargersville is like closed and got some cop car with its lights on in front of a big hole. So I've got to drive. Hell, I don't even think I've seen it. Seriously. Anybody notice that? Whenever you see the police car with its lights on, stationary, it is normally guarding a big hole. So I had to drive. I haven't seen it. So the big Mountain Dew bottle? Is it like the Mountain Dew bottle where remember the redneck or the hillbilly that was on it and leaning back against the tree? It's not that one, is it? I'm assuming some sort of sponsorship, right, Rex? But I have not seen it, full disclosure. I did see last night. I want to get back into that, too. We'll talk a little bit more. I tried to explain to you regarding John Halliburton and the reaction, and nothing is going to justify it. He's apologized. Tyrese has had to apologize for him. Tyrese said all the right things. There have been issues with that in the past, and you hate that it happened. We get back to that. But to me, still more overwhelming was not having to take your ass dragging back to Milwaukee for a Game 6. Can you imagine? That would have hurt 1,000 times more, I think, than how difficult the pain was to deal with for Benedict Mathurin when he got kneed in the sack by Giannis. And why he was mad about it. See, I wouldn't want Giannis grabbing the back of my head and try to explain something. They said, wait a minute, you need me in the sack a little bit. I had to miss a game because of your nut shot there. But full disclosure, I think we all understand the rules between right and wrong, and John Halliburton was in the wrong, and everybody has had to own it up, and Ryan Clark's on ESPN going nuts. You got to ban this, you got to ban that, whatever. Now, what you got to do is you got to apologize and never, ever act in that jackass type of way again. That's easy. Why can't we live in an easy world? An easy world of recognition. We'll recognize the Pacers moving on to the Eastern Conference semifinals. Game 1's coming up on Sunday. Bowen's got that and a lot more with me coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Denari after 5. Your calls at 239-1070. My advice, go nowhere.
Ride with JMV.
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Friday, we're going to be live at Harris Hoosier Park, Racing and Casino in Anderson. Kentucky Derby on the inbound. We got you covered up there. I'd love to see you in Anderson. Jalen Travis a little bit earlier, the fourth-round selection. His hometown is Minneapolis. We talked about the late Prince in Paisley Park, and James comes back with From Around the World in a Day. This is America, James. Getting a little bit loose over there, James? You like it? I know it's not quite Lamb of God, but this is good. This is
pretty
good,
yeah.
Joey T writes this, JMV, Hallie's dad was in the wrong, but we can all admit we're tired of watching Giannis shoot free throws every other possession. Here's the thing, though. Put it in terms of what if the roles were reversed and it was somebody's dad or somebody confronting, Tyrese Halliburton like that after a loss. And I've always said this goes all the way back to after the whole Malice in the Palace. I've always said if you venture out there with not even necessarily hostile intentions, but any sort of intentions other than just watching the game, then if one of these dudes drops your ass, that's your fault. And I remember going all the way back to November of 2004 and saying the same thing. I'm justifying the then Ron Artest. Anybody or Jermaine O'Neal, remember that little frog dude that ran out there? Ribbit. And O'Neal took a right hook at him and slipped and missed him. I mean, would have absolutely taken his jaw out. I normally say that, just stay off the stinking floor. Here's the other thing, too, and this is much more of a lower level, and this is just me. I don't know who else out there would agree with me on this. I 100% hate when you get people in street shoes walking onto a basketball floor. That goes back to my high school days. And probably because in my high school in 1978, they held something called donkey basketball. So in our high school gym, on our hardwood, a place that I love, and I was 8 years old, they got Billy Keller, among others, out on the back of donkeys for charity. And they played basketball on donkeys. And, we're talking about these donkeys scuffing up the floor, just completely screwing the floor up, taking dumps, taking a whiz. So I think I was scarred from that moment in 1978, but I hate when people walk on the basketball floor in their street shoes. Can you walk your ass around? Really, it's only like 5 more feet. Because then when you go out there and play, everybody slides around all over the place. Don't blank with my basketball floor. But beyond that, we all know how wrong that was. And he's taken a lot of heat for it today. He's done exactly what is necessary to apologize. His son, unfortunately, is put in the unenviable position to have to speak with regards to this, even though it should be even more of a celebration of him closing out Milwaukee and the Pacers doing to Milwaukee in the past 2 years, eliminating them. 20 times I think these two teams have played over the course of the last 2 years? That's an amazing number. But we all know who is in the wrong on this, even how much you hate Giannis going to the free throw line or, Giannis kneeing Mather in the nuts or whatever and them getting into it. As much as we hate that, there is no justifying that behavior. And as long as everybody understands it, and for goodness sake, it never happens again. But that is something you cannot ignore, and it is something that you certainly cannot justify. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, I don't know if he hates street shoes on the basketball floor as much as I do, but he's in the morning show with James Boyd and Jeff Rickard. Kevin Bowen joins us right now. It absolutely drives me insane when street shoes are on the basketball floor. I hate it.
Pacers need to hire you as their new mop guy.
I'm so pissed.
All right, JV game into varsity. Let's get the assistant athletic director out here to mop up the floor. That could be your job maybe at Pacer games.
like I'm in a high school gym and I'm playing, and I feel the same way. Like I'll be at Southport or someplace, right? And somebody, and it may even be somebody that's employed there, will just walk in the gym and then walk right through the middle of the floor. I said, can you walk your ass around this? I mean, if you're going to walk out here, put on some basketball shoes. All right, put on shoes you didn't wear in here out in the snow and the salt and the slush and the ice and the dirt. Just walk around. Literally, it takes you, what, 10 more seconds? Walk around. It's always been – I don't know if I'm scarred from the whole donkey basketball episode of 1978, but I've always had an issue with it.
Are you a walking on the chalk on a baseball diamond?
You know what?
In the same regard?
Yeah, I was a catcher, so I really didn't have to mess with it, and I probably had stepped on the chalk all the time just because, you're in the action and you're around it. So it's a little bit different for me. Like I didn't run out. Yeah. They didn't. I could actually catch at that level, so they didn't send me to right field. I didn't have to jump over the line or anything.
All right, John's at second base, and we'll switch him to right field.
Yeah, we're gonna put you in right field. Yeah, because you have a great arm. No, because you can't catch a cold is why you're in right field. Hey, by the way, before we get into last night's game, we've got a thrilling Fan Invitational Golf Outing presented by Franciscan Health. That's Thursday, August the 7th, down at Legends Golf Club. Our friend Ted Bishop in Franklin is going to have us for that day. I can't wait. You excited?
I am pumped. Now, I've offered a couple suggestions. I probably should have cleared it with you and Jake before. I don't know if they've run this by you, or maybe they just looked at me and said, yeah, we'll act like we'll entertain them, but we won't go through on it. I thought you on a whole DJing, because the outing starts at 10 a.m. We got to keep you busy till 3.
Yeah.
I want a JMV takeover on a hole. So every group then gets to interact, and not to put you to more work here. Then I thought with Jake, that historical encyclopedia of his in the great state of Indiana. How about some sports trivia? If you get it right with Jake's hole, boom, you're moving up to the forward tees.
No, I think that's a tremendous idea, because when I used to have mine, I never played, and I always would just play music in one specific hole, but this is like taking it to the next level, and I dig that. I think that's a great call by you.
The other idea I had for you, and you'll probably be more about this one too, and you can honestly do both. Why don't we get a little Papa shot set up on a hole with you, and if they, outshoot you, then boom, they can get an extra mulligan, or again tee off from the forward tees or something like that. And if they don't, send them to the back tees, and they got to play the hole from back there.
We can do. I tell you what we can do. Just bring a goal out there, a 10-foot goal. We'll set it up and we'll shoot. That's what we'll do. Right there next to the tee box.
The gorilla goal.
Yeah. Seriously, they're probably easier to do than Papa shot right now. We'll just roll one out there and do it.
7th and 3rd hole at the Legends. I always called that the Mecca of Indiana high school golf. Back when I used to hold the Indiana high school golf state finals, they share a tee box right there.
Yep.
Gorilla goal it up. I love it.
I'm telling you. So if I win, then they have to shoot from where? What happens?
If they beat you, then they can go from the forward tees, or they can, whatever, an extra mulligan, however we want to do it. And if they lose, they got to go play back where the pros play.
Yeah. Oh, well, they don't. Can you imagine? They're going to lose. I mean, I love our golfers and our fans, because there's not one of them out there going to beat me with that broke-ass jumper.
Man, I want some groups that can hoop now showing up on August 7th here to outshoot you.
Yep. Hey, by the way, I did text James the other day, and got no response. Is he mad at me?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Did you text him early in the morning? Because we had to call him this morning to wake him up.
No. Were we late this morning to work?
He pulled the Jake query. Now, the difference between Jake and James, while Jake's on his, 37th rerun of whatever he's watching, James is actually working late into the night. So, yeah, James was at the game last night, and all of a sudden 6:59 rolls around, and it's me, and it's Jeff Rickard, and Mark Dykton looks at us and says, oh, boy, should I call him? Usually he's like
yeah.
And I'm kind of a late arrival as well, but usually he's like, 6:50, 6:55-er. So if you text him early, he might have just missed that.
Man, I did not know that, but no, I sent it on Saturday evening. I got no response. No response.
Well,
I think he's mad because I've called him out for skipping out on us.
yeah, he did bring it up on the show, and
Did he?
I don't think I threw you under the bus by any means. I just said I offered up that you know maybe he had a. I think I said the word strange. I don't know if he didn't love that description of it, but now Saturday evening, to be fair to him, he was probably a little busy during the draft.
Yeah.
Here I am making excuses. I don't know. Maybe after the draft, after 3 hours of late nights, maybe he dialed the strange back up.
Well, and I tell you what, Kevin Bowen's with us. Speaking of strange, and not necessarily that description of strange, last night was strange to me, and here's why. Because I found myself absolutely loving something that most of the time I thought was incredibly beneath this Pacer basketball team, especially the start. Is that fair? Is that a fair and accurate description?
Yeah. I mean, I was stunned. I thought they would. I thought the Cancun chance would be loud in the fourth quarter. I was stunned that Milwaukee punched them to that level. Yeah, for sure.
And that first quarter, you know, I know Rick reminded you guys to remind the fans it was a 6 o'clock start when really he should have been calling his team and saying, hey, you guys, it's a 6 o'clock start, because they waited till around 7 o'clock to get things going for real.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was shocking. I mean, 4.5 minutes into a game before you hit your first shot. And, you know, even when that starting unit went back out there, I didn't really think they showed up much the second time either. Like, I thought the bench kept you afloat. Now, eventually, I think you got there with the starters. And, you know, even if you look at the second half, if I had to pick, you know, if that game for whatever reason would have ended in regulation and the Pacers somehow would have won, I would have said, and I don't know, maybe he still would have been it. Maybe Halliburton's late heroics superseded. But I thought McConnell was the only reason why you had even gotten that game to the point where, you know, you had a chance to win it in regulation. I thought he was so good. And
yeah,
I felt like their depth would wear them out. And I think eventually you probably got there, but it was on both ends of the floor too. The defensive pressure and then obviously offensively as well. That was stunning. And, you know, certainly I think if you're Rick Carlisle, some coaching points exiting last night would be, you know, if we give that 48-minute effort against the Cavs, then you might not see a game 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's Kevin Boone with us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I completely agree. And like I was talking to Chad Buchanan a little bit earlier, and I don't think I've ever said for a guy that goes like 30 and 20 and 14, whatever Giannis was last night, that the Pacers caught him in a game in many moments, especially to end regulation against Miles. And I'll give Miles credit because I always do. And, you know, defending him into settling for a fadeaway. But it didn't seem like that Giannis was going with his shoulder down and as hard to the rim as he did earlier when that series certainly felt still within reasonable doubt. So I thought even with that big number in the box score that he put up, I thought there was a lot of settling going on with Giannis last night offensively. So I don't know if we give credit to the Pacers defensively, or was it maybe kind of the situation that's been brought upon by being down 3-1 in a closeout situation and, you know, your second best player being done until next year, through next year, in fact.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Giannis hitting a wall seems a bit ludicrous to say, but I don't know. Did it finally kind of catch up to him? Because I even thought I wouldn't have guessed Halliburton would have blown by him to that level in overtime. Yeah. And, you know, how much of that was the fifth foul? You know, Tyrese mentioned that post game. I'm like, I mean, at that point, if you're Giannis, you make that officiating crew. We'll see you for that 6. I mean, it could be a game-sealing block.
Well, I mean, David Guthrie is there, and he swallowed the whistle a couple of days before, he and his crew. So,
sure,
I mean, he might have swallowed it last night, too. Yeah.
And, yeah, end of regulation, John, I guess, again, I don't know how much of it was Siakam and foul trouble or more of just let's throw a different wrinkle at them. But, you know, putting Turner on him was huge in the sense of I don't know if that made Giannis pause at all. Like, okay, I'm not really super used to this. Are they going to do something? Are they throwing a double at me? And, you know, they really didn't double right away. But I could not believe if you just told me at the start of the possession the Pacers are going to get an 18-foot fadeaway jumper from Giannis, I would have said, where do I sign up for it? And if you want to look back on the play, I mean, he might have had Green too. It probably would have been a challenge to look, but hell, it's seemingly Green and, Trent hit every single challenge look they had last night. So, yeah, that was a great little wrinkle that the Pacers threw at them. Neesmith with a timely double, and Giannis, weirdly, I thought way too passive, and he waited way too – I thought took too much time too.
So Kevin Bowen, the morning show, along with Jeff Rickard and James Boyd. Kev's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You brought up T.J. McConnell. I constantly find myself having to, and I have no idea why, I guess, to knuckleheads out there, defending T.J. McConnell as, again, part of essential personnel for this team. And I think oftentimes, I think nationally this goes with Tyrese Halliburton. Well, he's not elite because he's not going to every night, give you 40 or 40 plus. And what he does is a part of a team concept, which is clearly the reason why this Pacer team wins. He's the guy that gets everybody theirs because they can't get it on their own. And that's the type of creator that is necessary off the bench. And we saw how important that was with T.J. McConnell, and know again how important that is. I always find myself defending those two aspects to people that don't realize that the reason why this Pacer team is good is because of the team concept, and both those guys create it.
I don't typically do this, but I found myself today saying, like, all right, if you made an all-series team, it's kind of a popular thing you see in the NCAA tournament, the all-whatever, East Region team. If you made an all-series team, I literally think the first two Pacers I'd put on the team would be Miles and Neesmith. I thought they were your two most consistent, both ends of the floor. And, some people could probably disagree and say, hey, you're forgetting about Siakam games 1 and 2, and, don't undermine what Tyrese is doing. And whatever, I can listen to that conversation. But more than that, I just think Neesmith and Turner were that important for you throughout the 5 games. And then last night, again, I mean, what McConnell gave you as a scorer. Like, there are times where, he facilitates or whatever. If you would have told me last night that you're going to feel McConnell's impact, I would have said, did he make, Kevin Porter Jr. turn it over a couple times in the backcourt? But, and I'm curious, I don't know if this came up, and I don't know, maybe I could ask Rick earlier today when he joined us, but, Porter Jr. played a career high in minutes last night. And, going into it, that probably was to be expected, given, Rollins is a non-factor, Lillard's out. And for TJ, I think TJ does such a great job when he gets in the game. He knows that he's probably playing 5 to 7 minutes. I can go full throttle in this stretch. And in particular, if they are leaving a starter in the game, that guy has probably played 6 or 7 minutes to start the quarter. And I can attack that. Again, wear you down with with depth and, minutes and, the fact that I'm fresh into the game. And honestly, I thought Rick had a little bit of a decision to make.
He did.
Not only taking TJ out when he did, but there were some moments in regulation, John, where I thought they could have gone back to him late.
I yelled, put him back in. I did. I yelled from my seat, which, in hindsight, it's probably good that he kept things the way that it was. But I said the same thing you're thinking right now.
Right, and it's not like, when Lillard is out there, Nembhard on Lillard is so obvious. With the Bucks, it's a little different. I mean, you're really just kind of chasing Green and Trent around screens, and frankly, no one was doing it well. So, but yeah, he was so good. I mean, again, as a scorer too, not just the assist guy or making plays in the backcourt. So, it was a shame because I thought to myself there at the end of regulation, and really it's a shame with how everything played out at the end, that you have all these antics that happened at the end of the game. It overshadows, I think, Neesmith's night and Neesmith all series long. And it really overshadows individually McConnell's night. I try to point it out on a couple of different occasions today of we don't need to talk John Halliburton for 3 hours here. Like, there were some other things that happened last night.
Me too.
And T.J. McConnell's effort deserves to, have mention.
And the reason why is I think you understand that there's no excusing the actions of John Halliburton. And he's apologized since, but even more so, his son Tyrese has had to take, a lot of the questions at him and has handled this much like he does with the ball in his hand out there perfectly. In an unenviable situation where you should be celebrating, the come from behind and the shot making and the win, you have to deal with this. And, you're a father, I'm a father. You cannot put your son, regardless of level, in that situation. And I know this has been a situation in the past with him. This cannot happen again, but there is no excusing or giving a pass to that behavior, because if it were flipped, the roles reversed, Pacer fans would be losing their collective minds today.
Yep.
So, and normally I've said this before after the brawl, I said, if you mosey out onto the floor uninvited or not playing like that and you get decked, that's your own fault. So I'm not suggesting he was going to get decked, but you got a couple of dudes out there that can lose it pretty easily in Portis and Porter Jr. You don't want it. I think everybody understands that. And then I guess you move on now, and hopefully that never, ever happens again.
Yeah, I nodded my head at everything you just said there. You can't run on the court. If you're going to run on the court, find your son. Once you don't find your son, get off the court. If you're not going to get off the court, go find his teammates. If you can't find his teammates, get off the court again, and certainly don't confront Giannis, of all people, frankly. And, not just, he could have walked by him. He could have gone back and celebrated with his wife and Tyrese's girlfriend and whatever there. And to be fair to Tyrese and to John Halliburton, I know he reached out to, or I think Dustin DePierac gave him a call today from the Star, and Giannis close game. I think everybody since that has happened has handled it very well in the apologies, describing the incident, et cetera, et cetera. But there's no business for that whatsoever. Honestly, it kind of reminded me of drunk college kid storming the floor doing something stupid. I mean, and I'm shocked Giannis didn't react more. It took a while for Pat Connaughton to get to Giannis. It took a while for TJ McConnell. Here's Aaron Nesmith, maybe the greatest basketball moment he's had considering his impact on the series, and he finds himself having to stop his celebration to go break it up because, to go pull John Halliburton away from Giannis. It's what are we doing here? And again, I love how much the Halliburton families embrace the city and sitting courtside, and obviously Miles' dad is opposite on the other baseline. That's awesome, and I think it's really cool. But that is just crossing.
Yeah, I don't see Miles' dad running out on the floor and waving a towel and not to his face. So yeah.
How about the chest bump between McConnell and David Turner last night? I need that on an endless loop. That's probably my favorite TJ McConnell moment of the night.
Yeah, I get so happy for Miles because I know the type of crap that he had to put up with, some knuckleheads around here, really a lot of knuckleheads, and that has faded now to where it needs to be, and that is enjoyment of his game and understanding of what he brings to the table right here. That's cool to see. Hey, in closing with Kevin Bowen, really quick. So Peyton Manning again at the Nuggets playoff game last night in Denver against the Clippers. Had that never occurred here at Indy, is Peyton Manning on TV at Pacer games endlessly like he is at Nuggets games? Because I know that absolutely drives, still to this day, Colts fans nuts.
I know. I feel like Jake, one day during the summer, him and I had a debate of, would Peyton Manning's kid have gone to Park Tudor or Cathedral or where for high school here? Yeah, that is probably right. Yeah. I'm sure they're living on cricket stick and probably enjoying life at going to, I don't know, Carmel.
Man, in hindsight, that decision still haunts. That may haunt forever. Seriously, that decision.
Some have said it's the curse that is still ringing true here. 13 years later today. It was funny. You were reminiscent about it with somebody last week, where were you? It might have been Hagen. You guys were talking about the press conference. All I remember, I had a class in Kelly down at IU, and I remember leaving class early and pulling up the press conference on my laptop of just a, where were you moment. That was probably one of the more, first kind of streamed press conferences, and I distinctly remember, it was funny listening to you, and I think it was Hagen, you two talk about being in that room, and I have vivid memories of exactly where I was in Kelly watching that press conference.
And it haunts on still a variety of levels today, even when you're watching the impact it would have to some fans around here with Manning enjoying courtside the Nuggets and the Clippers last night and not the Bucks and the Pacers in the closeout. Kevin Bowen, morning show with Jeff Rickard and James Boyd. Kev's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Talk to Jalen Travis one of these days. He's a good dude. I really enjoyed it.
Smart dude and a hooper.
He is.
One of two things that you have in common with him.
Well, we're going to get together. I told him he can host this show sometime because we need to smarten up this program a little bit. It's gotten way too dumb.
I thought you said he was going to play pickup with you guys.
Well, I would invite him out like that too, but last time I did that, then I lost a friend. That sucked. So I did like playing with McAfee, though. I used to whip him. That was great. I love playing against McAfee. But Dwayne Allen whipped my ass.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we know how that ended.
Yeah, we do. Up, buddy. Take it easy.
All right, see you, John.
It's Kevin Bowen, morning show right there. Thursday, August the 7th, by the way, that reminder, Legends Golf Club in Franklin. Yeah, make sure you check it out, 1075thefan.com. That is the Fan Invitational Golf Outing presented by Franciscan Health. Again, Thursday, August the 7th. Tee time, 10 a.m., Legends Golf Club. I can hoop with you. I can DJ for you. I'm at your service for what is going to be a fantastic summertime event with us, all of us here at The Fan. Denary, top of the hour. Quick break. We'll come back. Chad Buchanan, Jalen Travis, Kevin Bowen, podcast, 1075thefan.com. And time for your thoughts on last night, and then looking forward to the matchup of the Eastern Conference semifinals with the Cavaliers. Game 1 coming up on Sunday. Got you covered right here. It's 93.5, 1075 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
He's my best friend. He's my pal. He's my homeboy, my rotten soldier. He's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
No, I agree with this. JMV, your belief in Miles Turner proved right. This team is not where they are without him. And no mistake about that. I may be wrong about a lot of things, but I was 100% accurate about that. And there's only like a handful of us that are out there. But I'm glad everybody now is on the bandwagon of knowledge and smarts real good because a lot of you needed it. But it's true. I brought up T.J. McConnell. I've found myself having to explain often the level of importance that he brings to this team. The necessity that he is. Everybody just wants to talk about this is what he can't do. Do you ever just think about for a moment what he can do? And also think about it in terms of this team. And again, it's a team. There's not one guy out there that's going to be a night in and night out threat to get you 40. But led by Tyrese Halliburton, this team is a threat on a night in, night out basis to score 140 on you. It is a team. The whole overrated thing. You're never, ever going to hear me say that about Tyrese Halliburton because I know how much better these guys are, including 33, because of his presence. They don't have dudes that can go out there on the reg and get their own. But again, this is a team. And I found myself having to defend over the course of the season, T.J. McConnell, this is what he can do, final year. Like, you should, I've said this before, and this is not a slight at Alex. You know how much I like Alex Golden. But I swear to God, some of the people that follow him are dumb as hell. It is like split personality, and it all ends up on my timeline. If you got to get rid of TJ lost this game. Tyrese lost this game. Just a level of jackassery. And then you say all that, and you got to go back, and you got, I guess, feel compelled to apologize for it because you look so stupid. I guess what everybody should do is just not even read it or comprehend, but it shouldn't be that difficult to understand this concept here. Now, hopefully, again, after last night and all these years with Miles of me trying to explain, hopefully now you get it. Now, the one thing I will also agree with a lot of you on is with the excitement of the ending of the game, which is right there and is awesome. I also feel compelled to tell you that there is a little bit of bittersweetness because you go, ooh, that start in that game, because we've been through this with this team this season, just in different circumstances. Normally it's without a player or an injured player or just that really tough start to the season. I don't know about anybody else, but I did not. When I was going down to Cambridge Fieldhouse last night, I don't know about anybody else. I did not feel like in that game they were going to give you a 13-point first quarter. I didn't think Milwaukee was going to just like bend over and fade away. I probably shouldn't have said that first part. Fade away. But I didn't think or expect the Pacers to give you 13. Now, I will also say I thought the second quarter may be the hinge that kept things together because Milwaukee put up 17. I mean, the Pacers could have got run out of the building. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is there are values and things that are positives you bring out of that game, and certainly at the top of the list would be winning and moving on because that's what matters most. But I can't tell you that, hey, this was great and that was great. It was a team that really did, at the beginning of the game, battle itself. It wasn't anything Milwaukee was doing. I know people had suggested they came out and they punched and they were going to be tough. And the Pacers did a lot of that with lack of execution to themselves. but like a good team. You realize that. You change it. They have a good staff on the bench. And you win by whatever means necessary. So ultimately, that's what matters the most. 119-118, Game 5 final. Pacers move on and, of course, get Cleveland in Game 1 in Cleveland coming up on Sunday. All right, I'm going to approach this bit of news 15 minutes ago like the same way normally people approach it when we bring it up, because the Pacers are the team getting screwed. You ready? So the NBA says, I'm going to make sure this is accurate. NBA insider, a reporter for Clint. Is this true? Brett Siegel. The NBA always has that final 2 minutes report, the transparency report, if you will, at the end of games. That one incorrect call made in last night's thriller between the Pacers and the Bucks with 17 seconds to go. Overtime, Pacers down 4, 118-114. Halliburton made a layup, fouled by A.J. Green. According to this dude, and I'm assuming he's legit right here, no foul should have been called on this play. Now, is this accurate here? Can you look up the credentials for me, James, of Brett Siegel? Or is this kind of jacking with it type of thing?
He looks legit. He is for Clutch Points, clutchpoints.com.
Okay. So that is the 2-minute report? And the reason why I'm not going to go overboard on it is because nobody ever goes overboard when we've been in these situations before where we kind of loathe wanting to see that report. Because it all kind of bears out. Like, I couldn't tell that there was zero contact there. It looked like there was something going on there. But nobody ever defends this team when they take the hose late and a bad whistle. You look at Detroit. Think about where they would be right now if the right call was made. That's why I wonder when I was talking with Kevin a moment ago, Giannis kind of backed away from that final layup that was the game winner, and you kind of wonder if he challenged it even more. It looked like he was afraid to foul. Okay, understand that defensively. But had he challenged it any more, would also have challenged the official not to swallow their whistle in that moment on that play. And it makes you think what would have happened, because there was not a great deal of Giannis aggression going at Halliburton on that final play. I mean, maybe you should have been a little bit more aggressive in that challenge. And even if you did make contact, I think we could all kind of wonder whether or not that was going to be called. If you're on hold, I'll get to you. Jerome, Josh, Brandon on the other side. Denary, top of the hour. Grand Prix tickets we'll give away a little bit later on, correct?
And Indy 11 tickets today.
Indy 11 tickets we'll give away as well. Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson coming up on Friday. Cinco de Mayo is on Monday. Alamo Drafthouse Cinema. West Side. Lafayette Road and Georgetown Road. I went there yesterday. Giancarlo and Hector are there. Awesome dudes, a great place, and you can also absolutely free for the 3 hours we'll be there on Monday. You can get inside the Dallara Simulator, just like drivers do for the greatest spectacle in racing, and do it absolutely free. And there are a lot of other reasons, too. We're going to throw back some tequila, great food there, maybe a JMV mini film festival, too. Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, Monday. Cinco de Mayo with us on The Fan. Quick one, we'll come back. Your calls, a lot more. Chris Denary, top of the hour, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
with JMV.
But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I'm going to get you set up with some tickets right here. Number 9 at 239-1070. The Indy 11 and Detroit City FC at the Mike coming up on Saturday night. May the 3rd, 7 o'clock. Number 9 at 239-1070 will go on us to go check out the Indy 11, everybody. JMV, I will also add the balance and scoring this team so often has. Some of these games, we've seen as many as 7 players in double figures. Makes that much more difficult to deal with. They are a team. It is a full-bore team concept. Like when you think about it, how often would you trust anybody on the floor at any time is going to be able to go out there and get their own? You have, as I like to describe it, orchestrators. And you have one of the, if not right there at the top, in orchestration in the NBA, you have Tyrese Halliburton. And you also want to keep that pace off the bench. You've got T.J. McConnell. I've never really understood why anybody would be as critical. I mean, and really as recently as last night, like the first 5 minutes of the game, you just go, what are these people watching? I did see this a little bit earlier from Pat McAfee's show where Tyrese Halliburton appeared earlier today. Evidently, Tyrese was supposed to throw out the first pitch at the Brewers game last summer. However, the Brewers called it off after the Pacers knocked the Bucks out of the 2024 postseason. It's, according to Tyrese Halliburton with McAfee a little bit earlier. I'll be honest with you. The whole thing, they played 20 times. What is it now, 20 times in the last 2 years? You're going to get a little pissiness going on here, especially when you have a couple of 3 dudes. And believe me, hey, listen, Giannis can be as disjointed about stuff as anybody. This all you got to do is look back to last year. You know, looking for the basketball, going to the Pacer locker room, just losing your mind in that moment. But this for John Halliburton has to be the last time because there is a history, as I mentioned earlier, and this has to be it because it is embarrassing for everybody. We kind of look at it and we just kind of let it fall off our shoulder. But for the Pacer organization, this is viewed as an embarrassment in that moment. You've done all the right things now, but you have to continue to do the right things and just act like an adult and not like some wild-ass AAU dad running out on the floor to dispute a block charge. Don't do that. Hopefully there is a lesson learned. Jerome's at 239-1070 on this here show, right at this moment, here, now. Jerome, hello.
Hey, how's it going, JMV?
Hello, Jerome.
Hey, man, I agree with everything you said. My only problem with John Halliburton, I get what he did. A lot of people don't like it. But I'm tired of the LeBron act that Giannis is putting on. So it was okay last year when you had the little tough guy group with you, Jay Crowder, and Thanos, ran up into the Pacers locker room, which, by the way, John Halliburton was in there too, and tried to demand a basketball. And then you came out on the court, took your finger and stuck it in Halliburton's chest like he was a 5-year-old 3 or 4 times, and berated him. And you got mad because an older man teased you about a game, and on national television you were sitting there clapping when Dame Lillard called Halliburton the B word, and Gary Trent called him sweet. He was sitting there encouraging that.
Yeah, we can't. We're not going to justify those actions, though, Jerome. Come on, man. I won't do that.
I understand, but you got to be able to lose. I mean, you got to be fair and square.
Yeah, like I said, everybody has moments in which I'm sure they like to have back. It's just like that was in front of everybody last night, and that kind of adds to the moments so far that have been an issue that absolutely have to stop. You can't have it.
Right. Oh, I agree with you totally. The only thing I'm worried about going forward is I think Naismith doesn't get the credit he deserves. He guards bigs, he guards smalls, and I know you talk a lot about TJ and Miles Turner, But the biggest thing that's going to happen next round is if we put Naismith on Donovan Mitchell, the problem is Garland kills us. We don't have anybody that can guard Garland.
Well, I've been thinking about this as well. So you think that's how you don't think that Nembhard is going to get Mitchell, and then Naismith may. I thought Naismith may. Who knows? This may be completely inaccurate. May trade off going on Mobley because Mobley's a big and faces up, and you saw Naismith guard more times than not in that series with the Bucks. Giannis. I thought maybe it's Nembhard that's going to get Mitchell, and then, I don't know. I guess Naismith with Garland or Naismith with Mitchell, and because Halliburton's going to get Strus, right?
Yeah, the only problem is with their team now, people forgot. They made a very key trade.
Yeah.
They got that kid, DeAndre Hunter, who is a hell of a defensive player.
Yeah, they did.
We're going to have to not have any 8-point games from Halliburton. He's going to play his best basketball. And I need Pascal Siakam not to disappear at the end of games sometimes. You can't be shooting fadeaways over 6'4" guys.
Yeah. No, you bring up a great point. I brought this up to Chad Buchanan a little bit earlier about how this – and my thought with Naismith maybe getting some time on Mobley is because of how he played often against Giannis in this first series. And because, you get Mobley. Mobley likes to step out and shoot the three, and he can certainly do it, but he can also come at you going downhill as a big as well. So I didn't know if it may work out that way, but you might be right across the board with a lot of that stuff. And Garland's been dinged up a little bit, right, in that first playoff series. I know he didn't have to play in Game 4. I think he only got 12 minutes or so, but it seems like he'd been dinged up a little bit. But they offer up, Jerome, and thank you for the call, they offer up a number of challenges. And the biggest edge the Pacers normally have in terms of depth and the bodies they use, that's one of those challenges because the Cavaliers bring that to the table as well. We'll talk to Chris Denari about that matchup coming up on the other side and his call from last night, which was fantastic. Pacers close out the Bucks in 5 games in overtime, and they get the Cavaliers beginning Thursday. So, Game 1, Sunday. Did I say Thursday? Didn't mean Thursday. Game 1, Sunday in Cleveland. Game 2, Tuesday in Cleveland. And games 3 and 4 would be Friday the 9th and Sunday the 11th here. And if necessary, back in Cleveland, Tuesday, May the 13th, Game 5. Necessary, May the 15th on Thursday for Game 6 here in Indy. And then the decisive Game 7, if, again, necessary, Sunday, May the 18th in Cleveland. That is the way that it looks. I haven't seen any times or any television either yet, James, so we'll keep everybody updated on that when we get the info. Quick break, we'll come back. Chris Denari's on the other side. Stay right there. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Halliburton against Giannis. Halliburton,
Got it,
3 seconds, puts it in!
Got it!
He put it in! 1 3/10!
There's no timeout.
No timeouts for the Bucks! Giannis to inbound!
Not happening.
Here's Trent!
Great victory for these guys. What a heck of a victory. Struggled.
Pacers TV, Quinn Buckner right there. Pacers win 119-118. And we've been talking about orchestration of this offense, keeping the pace, getting everybody involved, putting guys in position to score. You may not go for 40 every single night, but you can get a $140 every single night with the pace of offense and putting people in position to thrive. And also orchestrating for Pacers TV, he is the television voice, Chris Denari, who's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right now. So where does that last night rank for you, Chris?
Definitely a top 5 all time, no question. I mean, when I think about it, I almost had my Peter Brady moment there. I felt like more emotional in the end of that game than maybe any game I've done in quite a while. But I think about all the Pacers games that I've been able to call, and we're only able to call the first round. In fact, many people know that last night was the last playoff game we'll ever get a call because it goes all national next year. So, I've never been able to call, like last year, the Knicks series or the Celtics series, but clearly that's an all-timer. And to be in that building, I know you were there, for all the people that were there, I mean, it is a memory that you'll have. And you think back to all the great Pacers moments over the years, Reggie hitting the shot against the Bulls, what Reggie did, 8.9 seconds in New York. Clearly what the Pacers did coming back from a 7-point deficit with 40 seconds. I mean, it's almost some 1,700 games that had been played in the playoffs that nobody had ever done that. And the Pacers do it last night.
Was that last night the classic? It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah, I mean, because, I think one of the things they had done such a good job, John, in the first 4 games, they were plus 24, so that's plus 6 in the first 4 games each game. And remember, they had a 40-point game in game 2 in the first quarter. I just, as much as it was Milwaukee a little bit, no question. They came out, were very physical defensively. They put their best 5 on the floor to start the game. And I just thought the Pacers didn't handle things very well. I mean, guys couldn't handle the ball. I mean, Andrew Nembhard, Pascal Siakam, everything was very, very difficult. And but we've seen this team persevere. And I go back to March and April, and we think, do those regular season games really matter in those comebacks that they had? Well, I think we saw that they do matter because I think they could look back at those moments in March and April in the regular season and say, okay, hey, we've been here before, we can do it, and they did.
So Chris Denari, he's the voice of the Pacers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So the entirety of the series, 1-5 by the Pacers. Where do we begin? And I know that obviously you start with Lillard, but after that, after he goes down with that injury and is done, I mean, there were so many moments where the Pacers did, even without last night, seem so much in control. Where do you start as to the reason why they did look as good as they did, even without those variables that I previously mentioned?
Well, I think this is a team that, and I heard your interview with Chad Buchanan earlier. I do think the continuity, the camaraderie, the chemistry of this group is second to none. And I've told lots of people what you see is genuine. It's real. It's not fake. It's not put on. I mean, these guys really cheer for each other. And I just think there's a great belief among them. And it really starts, let me tell you, with Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, he helped change the culture of what this organization is about as a leader, but also willing to share that leadership with teammates. And so I think the other thing I think, John, is I've said this a lot. I give a lot of credit to Rick Carlisle and the coaching staff. And the thing that I've noticed, and I'm fortunate I can go to practice and shoot arounds, is there are multiple voices that you hear at a practice and a shoot-around among the coaches and among the players. And I don't think that happens everywhere. And so I think that really bleeds through to this team and gives them the opportunity to play well. They've had an excellent year. It's not over yet, but 50 wins, advance to the second round of the playoffs, and now you have a chance to knock off the number 1 seed.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a second, too, because I thought maybe the most impact of this series coming up that begins on Sunday in Cleveland with the Cavaliers, without question, the Cavaliers have been really good this year. But it is what the Pacers have normally is an edge with their depth and the amount of players. Cleveland can also equally throw a lot of stuff at you in that regard.
Yeah, they're a very deep team. There's no question about that, and so are the Pacers. I mean, look at last night. Basically, through the first 3 quarters, Pascal Siakam probably had his poorest game of the playoff series and probably one of the poor games he's had late in the year. But the Pacers have other players that can step in and pick those guys up if they're having an off night. And I think that's similar to what you see with Cleveland. I mean, they've got a really deep bench. They made the acquisition of DeAndre Hunter from Atlanta at the trade deadline. Ty Jerome has had a sensational year. So these are 2 teams that are very similar from that standpoint, that when they go to their bench can give them a lift. And that's exactly, as you said, that's exactly what happened last night. I mean, the Pacers aren't in that game and don't win that game without T.J. McConnell. I mean, he was amazing last night, but he's done that throughout his career, and that's why he's been so valuable to the Pacers in the 6 years that he's been here.
I know that he didn't get much clock on Monday in the closeout game for the Cavaliers, and Garland has dealt with some injuries. What is his status going in? Obviously, you get up until Sunday, and that's almost a week for them without playing. Is that necessarily a good thing or a bad thing? And is this a team, especially with Garland, do they need a bit of a rest? And is this going to be helpful?
Well, yeah, I saw the post-game interview that Donovan Mitchell did after Game 4, and that's what he talked about. He goes, we really wanted to close this out as soon as possible because we wanted rest. I think people know it is a long season. I mean, these guys have been going at it since October. And when you look at the Pacers, that week before this playoff series started was so valuable, John, because if you go back to mid-March, the Pacers, for about a month, played every other day or had a back-to-back thrown in. And, I can just tell you as a broadcaster, it can be grueling, and I'm not out there playing the game. And so,
and by the way, I take that back. Garland didn't play in game number 4. I had that wrong. I thought he played 12 minutes, but it was Craig Porter Jr. that I saw in this list of everybody that played. Garland had that left toe situation that I asked about, did not play.
Well, there was, that game got so away from Miami and so much in favor of Cleveland that they might have been looking for people to put on the floor at the end of the game. But, I think the rest is good for both teams. Cleveland, you could just hear Donovan Mitchell talk about how much the rest would be valuable, and I think that's important for the Pacers to be able to close it out last night, that you can sort of feel good and celebrate. I think the whole city celebrating today. I've been a number of places, and people wearing their Pacers hat and their Pacers gear. It's nice to be able to celebrate for a few days and not have to go right into the next series.
Yeah, it is. Even if you're on the road, and that will bomb, but that's understandable the way the Cavaliers played this year. Kristen Aries on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Defensively, how do they line up? Kevin Bowen and I were discussing this. I got a little bit into it, and I was just thinking in terms of, a guy like Mobley, will we see a lot of switching around and maybe Nesmith see time on him? Or will it be Nembhard v. Garland, Nesmith v. Mitchell, and then moving on from there?
Yeah, I think that's been the strength of what the Pacers have been able to do is throw different bodies at different people. If I look at the backcourt situation, clearly a Nembhard guarding Mitchell makes a lot of sense, but you could also see Nesmith. It just depends on the rotations and, how does Thomas Bryant factor in? We didn't see a lot of him necessarily in this series. The Pacers went small a lot with Pascal Siakam and Obi Toppin. So I think that's something that both sides will be working on during the week as they prep for the playoff series, and also something that you'll see changes throughout the series. I think one of the big changes that Doc Rivers had to throw out last night was something that we hadn't seen, and that was the starting lineup with Trent and Green and Porter, now Porter because of Lillard, and then taking Brook Lopez out of the lineup, John. He had never come off the bench in a playoff game. And so all of a sudden, here's a 17-year veteran coming off the bench. And I wonder this, at the end of the game, he was so ineffective in the series, but one of his great strengths is protecting the rim. And Tyrese Halliburton got to the rim twice in overtime. The drive on A.J. Green to cut it, and then that drive around Giannis. And not having Brook Lopez on the floor, I think, was huge for the Pacers.
Yeah, and I understand where they were going with that. I mean, you're playing the guys that had played the best in that series that were available to you. But that certainly was interesting. Do you have any recollection with the Pacers and the Cavaliers in these regular season games? If memory serves, Chris, the Pacers got a win on the road in Cleveland. They had back-to-back games, and they had a road win at Cleveland. And that was a game in which Tyrese Halliburton did not score very much in that game, correct?
He did not play in the second half.
Yeah, exactly it, yeah.
John, that was a game that was similar. In fact, I was looking at it last night. I think the Pacers had like 40 points in the first half, and they exploded in the second half without Halliburton and beat Cleveland. So in that game, both teams were at full strength. And then there was a TNT game in January that we didn't do. Cleveland came to Indianapolis and won. And then the last two games are a little different because those were two of the last three games of the season. Remember, the Pacers won on a Thursday night, beating Cleveland to clinch the number 4 seed. And then they went to Cleveland on that final Sunday. And remember, the Pacers were down 27 with all their backups. Cleveland wasn't playing anybody. The Pacers had multiple backups in, and Indiana came back to get win number 50. So the last two games almost you can throw out because the personnel was totally different than what we'll see. I would say those first two games, the Pacers win on the road in Cleveland, and then Cleveland's win in Indianapolis are the two games you would want to look at.
And that's pre-DeAndre Hunter, because both of those games took place in January, and that has been certainly a huge acquisition for them. I think that's what LeVert and Niang were there at the time, and they are now gone. So that's an interesting dynamic, but I had completely forgotten with that Cleveland matchup. So Halliburton played very short time in that win in Cleveland, and they didn't play at all in the next game at home in which the Pacers lost. So that was back-to-back. That was a Sunday-Tuesday, January 12th and 14th regular season duo of games.
Yeah, so really it's interesting because you look at all four games, and with the personnel, really it's a blank slate going into Sunday, right? Because the Pacers won in Cleveland basically in the second half, no Tyrese Halliburton, and then lost in Indianapolis with no Tyrese Halliburton. And again, as I said, those last two games, the personnel was totally different than what you're going to see starting on Sunday. So I think it'll be a terrific series. I've gotten a number of texts from national people that can't wait to watch this series because I think most people expected the Pacers to win the series against the Bucks, but I had most of the people nationally felt it was going to go 6 or 7. So I think for Indiana to win it in 5 and get it done early is a huge bonus.
Well, and credit where credit is due. Cleveland, outside of OKC, nobody has really played consistently over the course of the season more outstandingly than the Cavaliers have.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, J.B. Bickerstaff did a really good job with them, and we've seen the job that he's done in Detroit this year. But they were well known for their defense, and what Kenny Atkinson has done, he sort of unlocked their offense, and that's made them even better. They're still a good defensive team, but they're a much better offensive team than they were a year ago.
Yeah. It's just defensively too. You still have Jared Allen. He can do some things down low. Now, Miles has the option, if that's who plays him, and historically between the two, that's who does. He can step out. That'll bring Allen away from the basket. But it's just funny, you look at all these different angles as far as sizing up this matchup going into Sunday in game number 1, and there are a lot of things that kind of equate to one another a little bit here between the two teams.
Yeah, no question about that. And I've heard you talk about Miles today. I mean, he's a guy I am super proud of. I've said this, that when it's all said and done, and I hope it's many years down the road, I firmly believe he's going to be one of the most beloved Pacers in Pacers history, just for what he's been through, what he provides, what he does off the floor, to see the emotion that he plays with, and, just to see what he did in both these games, in Game 4 and Game 5, 20 points or more, and his ability to, he basically made Brook Lopez irrelevant in this series. So, he'll be challenged with Mobley and Jarrett Allen coming up, but, I have full confidence and faith that these guys have a real opportunity to get to the Eastern Conference Finals again. They're not going to be a favorite at all. I mean, most people are going to pick the Cavs, and rightly so. I mean, they won 60-plus games this year. But I wouldn't sleep on the Pacers. I mean, all of us that have followed them throughout the year, we know how good they are and can be, and I think it's a great chance for them to shine again on the national stage.
You and I were talking last night about this Pacer team, and I think especially those that don't pay attention, which is basically a lot of those nationally, you don't pay attention, you don't realize how much of a team this team is. And I think you look back at this series, it seems like down the list with everybody had a pretty strong, a very solid, an uplifting moment, again, for this team. And that's exactly what you're looking for, because that's how they win. There's just not a lot of finger pointing you can do to say, well, there's no way this guy can get clock or minutes or anything like that, because normally somebody got in there at a moment and had a particular positive moment, and that, again, is the essence of why they win as a team.
Yeah, no question. And there's a certain night that a guy might not get the minutes that he got the game before because the other guy is producing, and that's what I love about Rick Carlisle. I mean, he doesn't have predetermined rotations. I mean, sure, you watch and you know the way they manage Siakam's minutes, but think about Game 4. It was Jarris Walker that came off the bench before Obi Toppin, yet Obi Toppin still had a really good game off the bench. So I like, as you said, the way that Tyrese Halliburton orchestrates things. That's what Rick Carlisle and his staff do, and they feel very good about the depth that they have and the way they can utilize them. And I think that's probably why you saw Giannis not as effective late, because he was worn out. And I think the Pacers' depth had a big handle in that. And that move they made to put Miles on him on the end of regulation, as you said, you would have thought that with the success that Giannis has had getting to the rim and getting to the foul line, that he would just take the ball to the rim and try to draw a foul. Instead, Miles forced him out to the baseline, and then Nesmith comes over to help, and Giannis has taken a fadeaway 18-footer. Well, you'll sign up for that every night, and that enabled the Pacers to get the game to overtime.
You're talking about that effect that maybe it had on his wind. Did we see that in that final play with Halliburton? Because I expected a lot more of a defensive challenge, an aggressive defensive challenge, than you got from Giannis. Did that also, you think, play a role or factor into the situation then?
Well, I think so, and I think the other thing that Ty did a really good job of last night was taking the ball to the basket. Remember, in regulation, he had the drive and the dunk that tied the game, and then he had the drive and the foul on A.J. Green, and then he has the drive around Giannis. And I think maybe Giannis felt like he was going to shoot the perimeter shot, and Tyrese surprised him. And there was nobody at the rim. I mean, it was almost fascinating to watch. You're watching it it was sort of like slow motion in my mind, and I'm thinking in my head, he's going to get to the rim and lay it in, and the Pacers are going to have a chance to win this game. Usually, especially with no timeouts, you're not going to get a shot like that, and the Pacers got a layup to win the game.
Yeah, it was interesting to me to see. I thought that might be a moment to where, all right, I know you're worried about getting a foul call right there and losing from the free throw line, but at the same time, a little bit more of an aggressive challenge, knowing that we have seen in a couple of different instances, and one guy that actually was a part of that crew a couple of days before in Detroit, that swallowed their whistle on a final play like that.
Well, what's interesting, Tyrese lays it in with 1.3, so he gets to the rim. There's nobody there. If somebody comes to help and Tyrese has to throw it out, is there even enough time to get a shot off, right? But there was nobody. I mean, there was nobody around the rim to help. I mean, that was sort of the shocking play, is once he cleared Giannis, there was nobody at the rim. And that's why I said in as I drove home last night after you and I talked, I'm thinking, man, would the Bucks have wanted to have Brook Lopez on the floor? Like when Trent has the ball go through his legs like a croquet game, does Doc Rivers go to the bench and bring Lopez in? But they didn't.
Man, Trent, I did go back and watch some of that too. And while at the game, I'm talking controlled contests and closeouts and, getting a hand up or whatever. And you go back and look, and there were a lot of hands up, especially late, and a lot of close. There was one time when I think two defenders ran to A.J. Green and left Trent wide open. But he was just making some stinking shots. He just was. And that has been, we talked about this before this series, a characteristic of his against the Pacers. He shot 54% during the regular season, which I think that's what he shot last night, 50-plus from three in that loss in Game 5.
Well, think about it. Game 3, he made 9 and scored 37 points. Last night he made 8 and scored 33. There's 17 in 2 games. And, Giannis did a great job. I mean, the one improvement that Giannis has made over the years is he's a much better ball handler, and he's become a facilitator. And when you have three-point shooters around him like that, that's very, very effective. And that's how they, stayed in the game and regained the lead late, was with Trent and Green making those threes. Gary Trent probably made himself a lot of money last night in the series, John, because he's a free agent. And there's going to be somebody that's going to try to throw a bunch of money at him because that guy can shoot it. I mean,
does he shoot that way? Does he shoot that way against everybody else, or just the Pacers? It seems.
Well, he's about a 40% 3-point shooter, but he's not a 54% 3-point shooter. And what's interesting, I remember when he came into the league, his dad, Gary Trent, was a big guy. He was a strong guy, played at Ohio U, and his son comes in not like Gary Trent Sr., but a terrific 3-point shooter. Hey, glad we don't have to see him again, but Cleveland has their own 3-point arsenal, so the Pacers will have to deal with that here in the next series.
What's also cool is getting back and waiting from now through Game 1 on Sunday and getting to watch other teams in moments in which they're on, maybe the edge of elimination. Like, for example, get a couple of them coming up later on tonight. Golden State and the Rockets, Timberwolves and the Lakers. It's good to see somebody else having to deal with that while you're sitting back and awaiting the start of another series on Sunday. That's nice.
Absolutely. And, you and I, how much fun is April, now May basketball?
I love it.
We didn't have it for a number of years, and we sorely missed it. And it's just, like I said, it's so cool to drive around town and go into the hardware store and do this and do that and seeing people wear their Pacers hat and gear. It's just so cool.
No, it is. No doubt about that. It's Chris Denary, voice of the Pacers TV. They are done with the season now, but fantastic was the watch. And you talk about going out on a high visual note last night. It's exactly what took place in that Game 5 win by the Pacers over the Bucks. Chris Denary on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, enjoy working out in that yard. It looks good. Well done.
About 4 hours today. Listen to all you guys all day long. I listened to KB and the crew. I listened to Jake, listened to you. Let me tell you, that new Colts lineman, heck of an interview you had with him. That's why you root for guys and teams. When you hear guys like that, and just like you said, Aaron Nesmith, I mean, the Pacers have so many good guys, but when you hear a young man like that, you got to root for him. I mean, you just do, and that was so cool to hear your interview earlier in the day.
I appreciate you, man. We'll stay in touch over the course of this next series. You know that.
I'll do it anytime. Thanks, John.
It's Chris Denary on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He referenced our conversation with Jalen Travis a little bit earlier today. The 4th-round selection by the Colts, the offensive lineman, 1 year at Iowa State. Prior to that at Princeton, he is from Minneapolis and shared a lot of things, including some NBA postseason breakdown. And evidently his parents went to high school with the late, great Prince Rogers Nelson.
I think he said he grew up on the same street as him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prince, did you make a promo of that?
I have made
That's
one,
awesome. And we brought up Paisley Park, and then immediately I decided I wanted to clear the schedule and keep him for the remainder of the show. A really good podcast with Jalen Travis, with Kristen Airy, and Kevin Bowen, along with Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager, who started out the show today. 1075thefan.com. We've got Grand Prix tickets to give away, you and I, the rest of the way at 239-1070 up until 6 o'clock. Roadshow on Friday, Roadshow on Monday. Explanation forthcoming. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 1075 The Fan.
sheep explodes.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Grand Prix tickets to give away before we bail at 6 o'clock. Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM, earlier. Kristen Airy, voice of the Pacers, a little bit earlier. Kevin Bowen on this show, too, morning show. Kevin, James, and Jeff, weekday morning, 7 until 10 a.m. And Jalen Travis, fourth-round selection and big-time Prince fan and stories from the Minneapolis native offensive lineman. And as I'm glad Kristen Airy really enjoyed it, too. The podcast with each, 1075thefan.com. This is a shout-out to Chuck. So James tells me that Chuck called a little bit earlier. So Chuck says he's giving away a bunch of old vinyl and knows my daughter is into that stuff. So, Chuck, I will give you a call. I mentioned this. My daughter is, and you can tell, I guess you would call it a chip off the old block. She is much smarter than I am. However, she digs the 80s like I do. And you know how much I dig the 80s? The JMV takeover, B105.7. So she goes to, I don't know what it was in Franklin. Some kind of flea market sort of thing. I think they call it vintage sales. The flea market doesn't sound good, so they call it vintage sales. And picks up a bunch of vinyl. She loves 80s vinyl albums. And I had taken a picture of the Vision Quest soundtrack that she purchased on vinyl, which I just thought was awesome. And front and back had Matthew Modine on it as Loudon Swain, and Vision Quest, the film from 1985, and actually sent it out, and he responded. But she's got, trying to think off the top of my head how many. There's one promotional album she had, and I remember these were sent to radio stations in the 1970s. But it's a promotional album, and I'll send out a picture to this in a second. That's got a number of songs from the 1970s from all the known artists, and that's what radio stations used back then. You know, instead of getting every single album, the record companies would send out these songs so the radio stations would play them. But I have that. I'll send that out a little bit earlier. I check that a little bit later and see what you think about it. But it's pretty cool. But yes, Chuck, we will call and find out what you have on vinyl because she absolutely loves it. Thank you very much. 239-1070. Josh is up next today. Josh, welcome to the show. How are you?
I want to get him. Jim's black, too. But they didn't want him.
Hey, Josh, are you there? Josh.
They went and drafted that boy at Oregon.
This is dangerous territory right here. Josh sounds like he's a little fired up. Do you want to keep this up and listen? Do we want to eavesdrop, or are you scared of this?
I mean, I've got the dump button right here. I don't know if it works, but...
Do we want to eavesdrop? Is it bad etiquette if we eavesdrop on this conversation?
I mean, he's the one that left his phone while he was on hold to get on the air.
Is this situation better than the one where the dudes fall asleep?
Well, I think it's better for the show because we're not putting people to sleep like we did.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, Josh, are you there? Josh, are you there? We'll go back to him. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. We got another voice. That may be a kid. I don't want to do that. That may be his kid, yeah. Don't do that. We'll go back to Josh in a second. Amy's up next at 239-1070. Hello, Amy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was at the game last night.
Yes.
And it was awesome. But I want to kind of make a comment on the John Halliburton Giannis confrontation in air quotes.
Yes.
When Giannis gets up on the after game stage and says that we're being poor sports, how about him going to intimidate John Halliburton in the stands? Why didn't he just walk off the floor if he was so upset by what John Halliburton did?
Well, his problem is that John Halliburton went onto the floor and confronted him.
But that was But that was the security. The security shouldn't have let him on there.
Well, and what that does, it embarrasses the entire organization when that happens.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that.
I understand that. But what I don't like is that Giannis was saying that we are a team of poor sports. And then what was his head holding of Matherin after that?
Yeah, it's something that Matherin didn't want to hear, and it's because Matherin took a knee to his abdomen and missed a game from Giannis. And Giannis grabs him on the back of the head and acts like, he's his grandfather or something, and Matherin didn't want to mess with it. So that's kind of what that – I don't know about the intentions of Giannis right there, but I can kind of understand Matherin's response saying, hey, you know what? You need me in the groin, and I had to miss a game. I don't want to hear what you have to say right now, especially if you're talking down to me. You're not my dad. You're not my grandfather or anything like that. So he didn't want to mess with it at that moment. I don't know if there were ill intentions going on there, but we do know from what we see with our eyeballs that John Halliburton had no business on the floor confronting Giannis in the fashion in which he did. That's what it comes down to.
No, and I agree to that, but I, in turn, don't think Giannis had any business going up to him in the stands, grabbing the back of his head, and I'm sure not saying kind words.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I mean, emotional moments like that make hypocrites out of most of us, too. So, yeah, I mean, Giannis ran to the locker room and looked for basketballs and acted like a jackass last year. So he's had his moments, too.
Was he, another quick question. Was he on the Olympic team?
He was on the Greek Olympic team. He played for Greece.
Okay. Because I just, his comment that he didn't know who John Halliburton was is curious to me because every player from the Olympics talked about Tyrese's dad.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was so, but yeah, thank you, Amy, for the call. He played for Greece. I thought that my mom actually asked me a question last night. She was listening to Jason Tatum. They were telling a story about Tatum being all pissy over the summer in Paris about not getting clocked for the Olympic team. And, Tyrese didn't either, but didn't complain. And that was kind of the difference. And if you remember the dynamic, too, with the Celtics were bent out of shape because Jaylen Brown wasn't a part of that team, and then Tatum was, and he didn't get the run that he expected. So he was bent out of shape about it. Meanwhile, Halliburton was just pretty much happy to be a part of it all in those moments. But, again, the moral of the story is you don't go out on the floor and approach a player if you're Tyrese's dad. You don't put your son in that situation to have to answer all these questions. You don't put the organization in this situation to look bad. And you've also had a history of doing it before. It just can never happen again. That's it. To this moment, since that point, you've done all the right things. You've apologized. Your son has done 100% all the right things by denouncing it. But you put him in a situation, the organization in a situation that, believe me, they do not want to be in. Simply put, stay off the floor. Now, I saw the argument last night on TNT between Shaq and Charles Barkley. I just think you should stay off the floor. And sure as hell you don't take a towel out there and taunt. And listen, if you want me to be fair about this, or I don't know, if you think that I'm not being balanced, do I understand the father-son dynamic and what he probably heard in Milwaukee, what he's tired of reading on social media, but you still cannot respond in that fashion? He was 100% in the wrong, and it can't happen again. Let's go back to Josh at 239-1070. Josh, are you there?
Yeah, man. What's going on, boss?
There he is. How you doing, Josh?
Doing all right, man. You must have buzzed into me when I told
did.
my people.
Wait, we heard a little bit of your conversation, but I thought maybe you were talking to some children or something, and I didn't want to put that out there. So.
Nah, yeah. Well, it was about. I told my people that President Trump is the way the guy Shador Sanders drafted, but I was trolling him.
Well, I am sure as hell glad we didn't hear any of that. So that's good because
but,
I'm not a political dude, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I was going to say Neesmith and Nembhard, man. I love it, and I've been one of those. Oh, let's see if we can package a deal to get Kevin Durant. Neesmith, Nembhard, Mathurin. I was trying to package up in my head how we could do it. I'm thinking that's what we need to take the next step. I don't know. We might really be all right with what we got. If Neesmith, I hate that he's only about 6'4", 6'5". He would be a perfect 3-and-D guy.
Well,
perfect.
Always factor this in. This is Josh. This is a team. All right, this is a team, and as much as you like guys like Durant that can go for 40 at a moment's notice, you would rather with this team, the way that it's constructed, the way that it is built, with the personnel, it can go for 140. In a moment. So that's what you want. And that's where it starts with Halliburton, and he makes everybody on this team better. And all you have to do to realize that is how much better 33 is now compared to when he was when Malcolm Brogdon was dribbling the shot clock out back when he was here. It is completely different, much more enjoyable to watch, much more successful. It is a team brand of basketball to this level, Josh, you don't often see in the NBA. And I think it's enjoyable as hell to watch.
Yes, it really is. It really is. And, that's Pacers have always been built. Even when we've had successful teams, the Reggie Miller teams, the team that end up getting in the brawl, we've always had depth, and it's never been just one guy. It's always been, Reggie Miller hit a bunch of clutch shots, but he was an 18, 19 point a game guy. We had depth, and we won on defense, and we've always had a good, solid team. Every team we've had has been successful. And another thing, we're 8-1, I believe, in the semifinals. So that's good. So that's that. I think we're going to advance.
Hey, I don't mind it. I don't mind the matchup. And thank you, Josh, for the call. I appreciate that. I don't mind it whatsoever. Have a little bit of fun. That's what we all deserve this time of year, getting into the month of May. A little playoff, Pacer hoops, a little racing going on, some partying going on for Carb Day. Race day weekend, got you covered. My RV and the Coke Lot, thanks to Braun's Fun Time Campers on Pendleton Pike in Austin. Yes, the epicenter of party in the Coke Lot, the JMV takeover. I mean, can we ask for anything more? Obviously, with the Pacers winning. But we're going to have a blast in the month of May. Hopefully you're going to be with us. Quick break, we'll come back. If you're on hold, we'll get to you. Roadshow's Friday, and then next Monday, we'll explain that. Grand Prix tickets to give away, too. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Question for you. What color is an orange? Ted, you bonehead. Its color is the same as its name, just like a lemon.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Sancio Grand Prix, or as I say from southwestern Indiana, Greene County teached me really well to call it the Sancio Grand Prix. At 239-1070, life is not quite a highway at the Sancio Grand Prix, but it is a race coming up here. Number 9 at 239-1070, you're going to go. Yeah, this reminder, the RV that we're going to be a part of, that's Braun's Fun Time Campers, Pendleton Pike, Austin, will supply infield for the Grand Prix. But for race weekend, they're going to drop it off, I think, Friday morning. That's carb day. And then come back and get it on Monday, which is Memorial Day. Are you ready? Coke Lot. So we party in the Coke Lot, and I have RSVPs from many, including for the JMV takeover that Saturday night. Speedway president, IndyCar president Doug Bowles says, I am absolutely going to show up. I have heard from many guests that will be a part of that just cannot turn down the ultimate race party with the all-request Saturday night JMV takeover. That's the Saturday of race weekend, and we'll be in the Braun's Fun Time Camper in the Coke Lot. Ask for Austin at Braun's, by the way, too, if you want any sort of excursion where you can utilize a camper or an RV, that is it for you right there. It is awesome. Braun's Fun Time Campers. Ask for Austin, Pendleton Pike. Check it out today. Chris is at 239-1070 right now. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, JMV? How you doing today?
Chris, I'm great. Go ahead.
All right. What a beautiful day, I'd like to say. And Pacers back rolling. Something to be proud of again. But, yeah, I just a couple comments on the way Giannis reacted to. And we're obviously already beat it into the ground as far as Halliburton's father. You put him in a suite. You know, why don't we do that? And that takes all this away, walking on the court and doing all that silly stuff. But
yeah,
long story short, the way he approached Matherin seemed malicious to me. I could just see it kind of. He dapped every Miles up, and by the way, Miles is a dog, man.
He is.
The double just a dog.
He is.
He's playing. He plays defense like this. We can get Toppin and what have you, and even Siakam to step up and play half as good a defense as he's playing. It's amazing.
No. I do have to run here because I hear the music in the background. You call again tomorrow. We'll get to the rest of your comment. Is something going to have to be done? Yeah, we'll see if they go any further, regarding Tyrese's dad, John Halliburton. But, right now I think everybody's doing all that they can to do the right thing about it. But it's happened before. And it just can't happen again. And you're right about Miles. Call back tomorrow. I want to hear more greatness about Miles, because if you were with me, you have known this for a long time. He is a dog. Chad Buchanan, Pacers GM, Kristen Airy, Pacers voice, Kevin Bowen, morning show co-host, and Jalen Travis, Colts 4th round selection, podcast 1075thefan.com. James, great job out of you. Tomorrow, back in studio, Harrah's Hoosier Park in Anderson on Friday.